So hello everyone, welcome back to this Quantum Psionics for Spaces course. This is our lesson 2. My name is Raquel Sacramento and I'm in Lisbon at the moment teaching this course. So tonight we'll be covering in more detail the main elements and all the tools contained on this Quantum Psionic board, which is specific for spaces. So some of you have done the blue Quantum Psionic table course, so the level 1. And so you're more familiar with the terms like the activation and the portals and all of that. But because some of the students are new to quantum psionics, I will have to explain in more detail, step by step, how to activate all the tools, you know, how to proceed and to really do a full session for yourselves and for your clients. So tonight we'll be covering the more, the detailed part of the course. So bear with me. Anyway, you have the manual. So in the manual, we have all the description of the tools, the activation commands for each tool. So the manual is like a summary, but you have everything that you may need, even for your sessions. So you can always take it with you. Again, I recommend that you print out the all if you can, all the different annexes and documents, and then you can have a folder like this with the different dividers, and then just take this with you and the board. And
yeah, already done.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So, I think it's so useful to do that and to get organized just when you start with your practice. I think I'm very organized with these things, and I think it's useful to do it from the start, so you don't have all these different bits of paper and then you get a bit lost during the session, because you need a bit of a rhythm. You will see that once you get into the session, then you start activating the tools one by one, and you do it with a kind of a rhythm. So you don't want to be interrupting and checking where things are. So just try to get prepared, focus, get some moments before your session to connect with yourselves, to feel grounded, to feel centered and connected, and ask for protection and guidance from all your spiritual guides and ascended masters, angels, archangels, whatever your beliefs are. So we always create a healing space before we do any session, wherever you are. You don't need to have a proper healing space. You can even be, in some room or in an office or in the person's house, but just give yourself a few minutes to connect and to really get into that mood and into that consciousness level, because we can't just switch on and off. I think it's good to have some moments to prepare. So I will now share the presentation with you, and I will be sending these materials for you just after the session. So we'll be looking at the main elements of the boards. We've touched on this last time, as you know, but I think I should just, review it a bit, and then we'll talk about the tools and the step-by-step. And I hope that by the end of tonight, you'll be able to use this board with confidence, and then you'll have a couple of weeks to practice, and then, you can get back to me for some questions or any information you'd like to share. So today we'll be talking about the main elements again. So remember that we talked about the board and the different parts of the board, what they represent. So again, talking about the clock. So we call it the measurements clock. As you can see, it's a very detailed measurement clock for people who are used to dowsing. I think it's very useful to have this clock already in the board, so you can take it with you. You don't need all different types of charts and folders. So this clock is composed by different tabs, as you see. So we have 0 to 10, then 0 to 100, which is useful for the percentages. Then we have the 1 to 24 tab underneath that we use mainly for identifying the divine ray that we're activating each time. And then we also have the color tab, which is useful for some of the tools because we'll be using a lot of color healing, so chromotherapy with this board. So I think it's useful to have the color tab for this one too. So this clock was designed to be used for measurements and also to get, for example, if we need to check which symbol or which flower remedy we need, then we can go to the clock and check, if it's for example, number 5, or if it's number, let's say 10. So it's the 1 and the 0, or the 10, or the 12, it would be the 1 and the 2 to create the 12. So I think you're all familiar with that because you're all dowsers, but just to explain how we use this clock. We'll be talking about the specific questions that we ask for the houses, the different rooms. So I'll be looking at that in more detail in a moment. I think it's very useful to do an energetic checkup of a house like you would do for a person. So, you know, we are treating and looking at the house as if the house was alive, as if it was a living being, a living consciousness. So we can check for general frequency, physical problems in the house, geopathic stress. We can go into more detail on that. We can check the different rooms. We can check emotions. We can check spiritual frequency, if there's any negativity, if there are entities in the house. So, you know, you can go to as much detail as you like, but there are a few frequencies that I think are useful to get before the session, and then check them again at the end of the session to see what the results were after you've done the work, okay? So as you've seen already, so we have a toolbar, which is this beautiful symbol here. So the pentagram, it represents the human being, you know, with the healing tools surrounding it. We have specific tools on this board. So for people who've done the first level, the blue quantum psionic table, which is used for people and situations, we also have something we call the blank tool, where we normally add all the different healing tools and systems that we use, Reiki crystals, all symbols you like, you know, family constellations, color healing, aromatherapy, I mean, you know, we can add anything really. And then we can activate the frequency of those tools during the sessions. But on this board, we don't have a blank tool. So, you know, you may ask me, so how do we add something new or something else that we like to add on this? So it's a bit more restricted in this case because we're talking about houses. But for example, if you'd like to add some more symbols or another system or something else that has codes, you could always add to the symbol of the sacred geometry. So sacred geometry will be number 1 on this, and then number 2, 3, or 4 would be other systems, names of God, whatever you like. So you choose under each of these will be like umbrellas where you could then add something else. But to be honest, I don't think we need to add a lot to this board. I think for the houses, it's, you know, it's very complete, pretty complete for what we need in most cases. So, you know, don't go overboard trying to add lots of different things. Just trust that most, you know, the healing tools that we have here will cover most of the problems and situations in any house or space or land. So let's work with the tools that we have here, okay? So, but in case you need to add something like different flower remedies, you could also add them under this, you know, this symbol of the flower remedies or any other system for color healing, you know. So try to work with the symbols. And then if you need to add something, you can add them underneath the corresponding similar or more similar symbol for what you need, okay? But if you have questions, just come back to me on that because some people may like to add something else. Then we have what we call the potentiator. So in dowsing, you know, we use something to represent the person or the house or the situation. So in this board, on this board, you put the name, you write on the paper, for example, like this, you can add here a bit of paper with the address of the house. So the full address. And then I normally do, I write the name down, you know, the address or the person's name when you're using the blue board. So in this case, you write the address, the house address, and then I normally put a circle around it because I like to close the energy. And that's something that I learned in classical dowsing that I learned in France. So we normally create like a closed circle around what represents the person or the situation or the house to create like an energetic identity, a vibratory identity, and to contain it. Okay, so just write the house address or the land or whatever you're working on, and then just put a circle around it, and then you place it on this part of the board. okay, when you're working with it. So we call this the potentiator. So we call it the testimony. I don't know how you call it in your countries, but in Portuguese, and we call it the testimony. So something that represents the house. Some people even like to put a picture of the house or a little bit of the house, just some chip from the wall or something. You know, they like to have something that represents the house, but normally the address works very well. Then we have another portal here. So the portal number 1 on this board is the symbol, the bagua. So as you know, bagua in Chinese means literally 8 symbols or 8 areas. So these are the 8 areas of the house that are studied in this very ancient Oriental system. So we use this template, this map, to to identify which areas of the house we can work on specifically. But I'll explain that in more detail once we get there. So there is a symbol on this board here. So the symbol of the yin and yang. If your pendulum selects this symbol, then we come to the bagua and we ask, which area of the house am I working specifically on? So it could be this area, or it could be the center. So your pendulum will show it like a pointer. And then you know that all the different tools that you'll activate will be going to that region of the house, to that area, okay? And then once it's selected again, you know you're closing it and you go back to the main work, like the main frame. It's a bit similar to the Merkaba in the blue board, for those that know how to work with the blue board. But don't worry, I will explain this in more detail once I get to the tools one by one, okay? But this is where we normally activate, the tools that we need for a specific, there's different areas. So whenever we need to work on a specific area, it will show, and then you work for that area. You do all the work, you send and activate all the healing tools, and then you close it. So, it's like going into a specific room of the house, doing all the work, then you come back and you close the door and it's done. And you come back to the main work, okay? So, some of you know a lot about Feng Shui. I'm not getting into that because this is not obviously a Feng Shui course, but there is some information here. And then there is another portal, which we call portal number 2. So it's the spiral in the center of the board. It's got, so you know that the board has got this, the template of the board is always the flower of life. And then this spiral represents the access to, the etheric planes. So we work with the material planes and the etheric planes up to the 5th or 6th dimension in some cases, okay? So normally when you activate frequencies on this spiral, it means that you're working more on the material side of the house, okay? The structure, or something that is more like physical or closer to the physical, more energetic, etheric. So not so much about spiritual frequencies, it's more like the manifestation side of life. And then we have again here the solar disc. This is a beautiful symbol. And this tool allows us to access and to activate divine rays and access spiritual light teams. So, all our guides, mentors, angels, protectors, ascended masters, all the light teams. So we activate all the solar, on the solar disc, we always activate the divine rays and any other tools. So you know that whenever you're activating here, it means that we are reaching up to the 9th dimension. And this means that it's connecting us to very subtle spiritual planes, but not on a cosmic level. As you know, with the blue board, we have something that we call the cosmic portal. But on this board, we don't use the cosmic portal because we're not connecting with that kind of energies. We're more working on something that is on planet Earth, more material, more, let's say, more dense. So we don't have a cosmic portal on this one. But we do have at the end of the session, when we do the divine delivery, so when we finish the session, we always create a cosmic telluric connection. So it's like we are connecting to the cosmos and closing the energetic work that we've just done. But I will explain that in a short while. So how do we use this quantum sonic table for spaces? So I'm going to be taking you step by step on how to work on this. So, we always do something that we call the initial connection. So once we are settled and we are prepared for our session, so I really recommend that you take a few minutes to get centered and calm and connected. and to invoke protection. You can always create a circle of light around you, ask for protection, divine protection and light. You know, it's always good to be connected with the highest possible energies when you're doing healing. So then we always connect, and the initial connection in this case we do it over the spiral. So, you know, not on the cosmic portal like on the blue bar. We spin our pendulums clockwise over the spiral and we say, I am, activate the connection to the divine presence of, and then you say your name, so the practitioner name. So, you know, on the board it would look, I will now show you something like this. So you'll just take your pendulum to the center of the board and you say, I am, activate the connection to the divine I am presence of, and then you say your name out loud, if you like. And you let the pendulum stop by itself, okay? It means the connection is done. And then you again on the board, on the spiral, you then say you are connecting to the house, to the space that you're working on. So you say code spirit, house, and then you say the house address. Our consciousness chooses interaction. I'm in charge. And then you let the pendulum stop. So this means that we are connecting to the consciousness of this house, to the spirit of this house. So code spirit is a very powerful code that we use to access all the mental, on the mental plane. So as you know, some of you have done the other levels. We say code soul to connect with emotional levels, and code spirit to connect with the mental, like the universal mind, let's say. So we say code spirit, house address. Our consciousness chooses interaction. I'm in charge. So you're telling the house consciousness that you are in charge, that you come in peace. You know, you come with a sense of reverence. You come to help. You come from a place of service. And so, you know, you are in charge because you're doing the work. It's not because you're bossy. So it's like, I'm in charge, so I'm going to do this work. Always for the highest good of all involved, of course. And our intention is always to put the situation back in divine order, according to the laws of love. So, you know, we always work according to divine plan, according to the law of love. So, you know, we're not trying to impose our will, our egos. We are asking for the best to be done for all involved, which is, you know, it's not what we want, it's more what is divine and advisable for that situation. So, you know, many things can happen, but normally it's very quick and effective when we are doing these sessions. The second part, then, once we are connected, is like you're connecting to the house. You are expanding your consciousness to embrace this house, and then you can do measurements using the clock. So you'll take your pendulum to the clock and you can ask questions, and then it will answer any questions. So normally we ask in terms of percentage, but you can also ask in terms of quantity, okay? So let's look at what type of measurements that we can check on this board. So let's look at the house in general. So what is the general frequency of this house, of this space, you know? So from 0 to 100, what is it at the moment? And then, you know, you can also check if you go to the house, or if you are in the house that you are treating, then you can check where the house is positioned, what kind of neighborhood it is, what kind of energies you feel around the house, in the garden. So use your intuition, use our sensitivity, you know. So I will send you, after this lesson, I will send you a little measurement sheet that you can use for your sessions. This is something new that I've just come up with. You know, I've used some of my knowledge combined with other therapists, and we have these measurement charts also for the house, like the ones we use for people. So we can also ask if there's any exposure to harmful radiations. So there could be moss, there could be Wi-Fi's, you know, if there's electrosmog. We can also ask if there is geopathic stress. So you can ask yes or no, and then the percentage. So in what percentage is this geopathic stress affecting the house and its inhabitants? So then you can check in more detail if there are Hartmann grids, if there are underground streams, if there are any geological faults, you know, if there are any memories on the land. You know, you can ask for a lot of things. It really depends on your level of knowledge. So, you know, always check. I think geopathic stress is a great one to check, because many issues, even health issues in in people's houses come from geopathic stress. So people may be sitting and working or sleeping on top of a Hartmann grid node. So, that's really harmful, and they say it can really create cancer problems, other health problems, degenerative diseases. Also, Wi-Fi can be very harmful, especially for people with low immune systems or very highly sensitive people. They're very, very troubled by Wi-Fis. So if you can, try to disconnect your Wi-Fi router every night, because during the night we're more open, we're more exposed. And also in your bedroom, please don't sleep with your mobile phone next to your bed if you can, especially if it's charging, because the radiation is even stronger. And avoid any electrical appliances in your bedroom, even the TV, if you can avoid, or you can just unplug it. Don't leave it on standby, because it's emitting radio frequencies that are really harmful for our bodies and auras. So eventually, we start feeling depleted, devitalized, and we don't know why. So please check for geopathic stress and all the different items if you can. So next we'll be looking at the physical structure of the house. Remember, we are working with a living house. So the idea that every part of the house corresponds to some metaphysically also to some area or some physical area of the owners. So look at the doors, at the windows, the roof, the faucets, the plumbing, the sewer, to see if there are any problems. Most of the times they're quite there, so it's very easy to check, and the house owners will tell you what's wrong straight away. So you can always check at the beginning what is the current status of the physical structure, if that's affecting the house inhabitants negatively. So you can always ask as many questions as you find relevant. In my case, they come very intuitively, so it's like I start asking questions and then the right questions come. So we always check for the general status of the house, and then you can also go room by room. We'll check that in a moment. Then after the physical side of things, we'll be looking at the emotional frequency of the house. So you can check if there are negative emotions affecting the house, in what percentage, what is the current percentage of joy, of happiness, of love, of harmony, peace. Or you can check the negative emotions, if there's anger, if there's sadness, so we can always check the positive or the negative emotions. And also, check if there's any history, if there's anything they know about the previous owners, because that could be relevant. And any relevant events in the house, if there was an earthquake, if there was some battle in the field nearby, or if the house was used for other purposes, or if it's connected to, some war event. So, things will come up, and you please check if they are relevant and in what way they are affecting the house owners and the house energy. Okay, so, we always have an initial conversation with our clients, like you would do in any healing session. So try to get some information that may be relevant. If you don't know anything about the house, you can always just double check the physical frequency, the emotional frequency, and then the spiritual frequency of the house. So that means if there's any negativity affecting the house. So there could be entities, there could be evil eye, there could be envy, there could be even black magic done against this house. So, human beings are very complex, so there could be many things. We call them ill-qualified energies, toxic energies. So please check, the spiritual frequency of the house, and how much negativity there is in terms of percentage. And then, you can go into more detail if you like. So other measurements that we can also work on. So we can work on the house sectors, like we mentioned last time. So, each area of the house also corresponds to a sector of your life. So there is the area of work, spirituality, the family, prosperity, success, relationships, creativity, friends, and health. So, you can always check what are the percentages, if there are any areas that are missing. So, sometimes the house shapes, are very irregular. So there could be some areas of the house that are missing, that they need to be more activated and worked on. So, you can go into as much detail as you like. And then we can do an energetic checkup of each room individually. So, you can go room by room. So the hall, the entrance hall, the living room, the different rooms, bedrooms, the different bathrooms, kitchen. And then, we go through these different rooms and we check this how the doors are, if they close well or not, the paint in the walls, if there's any mold, if there's any cracks, what it means, how is the floor, how is the ceiling, the windows, the lighting, also the type of ventilation, and even the heating sometimes can be problematic. Also check for plumbing, especially of course in the kitchen and bathrooms, and any electrical appliances in the house, if there are any problems with those. And also if the house is organized, so which rooms are messier, which rooms are tidier, and what it means, energetically. And then we can also check the garden or the backyard, how it looks like, what's going on there, the garage, the shed, also the basement or the attic. So they say the basement is the past, corresponds to your past, and that the attic corresponds to your future. But in some cases, people don't have basements, they just have attics. So they put all their, extra things, unworn things in the attic. So they are filling their future with their past, literally. So that's interesting. But just check, just try to get as much information as you can during your measurements. But of course, you don't need to do all of these measurements. These are just some ideas, suggestions. If you don't have much time, you can always check what is the current frequency, general frequency of this house, what is the negativity affecting this house. And then if the person has a specific problem like relationships or prosperity or health, you can always check in what way is this house affecting it. So you can just do 2 or 3 questions and then you're ready to start the session, or you can go through a lot of detail. It's really up to you, and and also depends on your background. I think Feng Shui consultants probably already do a lot of this analysis, but it really depends on each person. So once we've done this checkup, we ask for permission. So this is something we always do in all the quantum psionic boards. We always ask, is it divine and advisable to do this session, to intervene in this situation? Okay. So we always want to put the situation back in divine order according to the law of love, the laws of love. Okay. So we ask, it can be on the cloth, it can be on the spiral. Is it divine and advisable to work on this situation, on this house? And it should say yes. If it says yes, then you proceed to the next steps. If it says no, then you just do the divine delivery and you close the session. When it says no, which is, very rarely it says no, especially for a house, but you may try again some other time, or you can just try to rephrase your initial intentions. Maybe you're not supposed to work on the relationships, but you can work on the abundance of that household. Or, if normally we try to rephrase the intentions, and then we can get permission to go. But normally with the house, you normally get a yes. Okay, so step by step, let's do the initial connection and the measurements like we've just done. Then we set our initial intentions. So normally when we do intentions, I will explain that in a moment, we always say them out loud. I like to say them out loud because we use the power of the voice of the word. As you know, even in the Bible, it says that the world was created by words. So, in the beginning, there was a verb, there was word. So we use the power of our will, of our intention. So combining and harmonizing the power of our hearts and our minds, and using the power of the words, of, the healing words too. And then we proceed with the selection of the healing tools one by one. I will explain how to do that. We use the pendulum always on these boards. And then once you select the tool, you always come to the midpoint. So there is a midpoint here. As you see, there is like a white dot. So imagine you selected a tool here, and then you come to the dot and you say, in which portal shall I activate this? And it will show you like a pointer which portal to use, or it can show you the 3 portals simultaneously, which happens a lot. So So it's very easy to use this board once you've learned it. So what you do, you select one tool, you select which portal, and then you read the activation command. Then you come back here, which is the next tool. You select the tool, you select which portal, and then you do the activation command. So you keep going like this. Come here, select the tool, come here, select the portal, activate. So there's always this sequence. So this is like a game, and you need to know the rules, but once you know them, it's quite easy to use. But then you need to put the healing intention on what you're doing. And then, we keep selecting and activating the tools. And then after a while, the final delivery, which in this case is the symbol of the Triskel, this symbol here. This corresponds to the final delivery, the symbol of the infinite on the blue board. So it means that we need to close the session. It's time to close it to finish the work, okay? So we then say the final disconnection commands, and we end our healing sessions with feeling gratitude and detachment and reverence and humility. We always disconnect from this work. And so divine delivery means giving it to God so the best may be done for all involved. So let's look at this in more detail. So as you know, we've just done the initial connection to the divine I am presence. So it's like your higher self, your divine I am presence. So connecting to the spirit, and then you connect to the house consciousness. Then you check the house measurements. It can be quick or detailed. And you always state the purpose and intentions for that session out loud if possible. Even if you're with a client, normally we can say out loud because people like to hear what you're intending to do. So you can say, I like to put this house back in divine order according to the law of love. I like to clear all negativity, all geopathic stress. We'd like to increase certain frequencies. So, if there is a very low emotional frequency or low spiritual frequency or low abundance or low joy or low, you can always ask to increase that. We ask for harmonization, rebalancing at all levels. We'd like to increase, the feelings of love or of peace, health, prosperity, well-being, so etc. You can then ask for whatever you think is relevant for that house. And then we normally just say the intentions. I like to spin my pendulum while I'm saying the intentions. So I normally do it over the, the spiral. So I just say whatever I'm intending to do. Then I let the pendulum stop. And then we proceed to the selection of the tools. So we select the tools by taking the pendulum to the pentagram. So this 5-pointed star. So which tool do I need? So it's showing me, for instance, the geochrome. Okay, I will explain each tool one by one. Don't worry, I'm just showing you how it works. So we select geochrome, then I come to the midpoint and I ask which is the portal, and it's showing me the 3 portals. So I will spin my pendulum clockwise and then say the activation command for the geochrome that I first selected. Excuse me. So the geochrome is there is a list on your manual. It's part of one of the attachments of the annexes that I've sent you. So geochrome is a beautiful list with all these different colors and shapes, geometric shapes. For example, and it's showing me the number 3. So I know it's the blue triangle. So I will come here and I will activate the blue triangle, saying the activation command. But I will do, an example. I will do a sample session for you to check. And then we keep going. Once we've activated the tool, we come back to the pentagram and we keep selecting the tool. So what is the next tool? And it's showing me, for example, the activating the axis of the house. So this is a very beautiful, I love doing this one. So in this case, we are connecting to the center of the house that needs to be worked on. So we check which color, and it's telling me the yellow color, and which portal, and it's showing me the spiral. So I know I'm going to activate this yellow color, the axis, using the command, etc., etc. So I will don't worry, I'll do a sample session for you in a moment. But I'm just showing you, we just go to select the tools on the toolbar, and then we select which portal and we activate them, okay? We always use the pendulum clockwise on this board, and we spin the pendulum with intention, and then we let the pendulum stop by itself, which means the activation is completed. And then, we keep doing it as many times as necessary. We never know how many tools will be activated in each session. So, each session is unique. So during the activation, and this is the key point, I think, in quantum psionics, and I think we, once you know the rules of this game, then I think it's time to work on feeling the tools and really doing it with intention, and and really being tuned to what the meaning of each tool. So in this moment, we use, when we are activating a tool, for example, imagine we are activating a symbol, or we are activating a color or a flower remedy or a geochrome symbol, then we use the power of our hearts and our minds combined. And it's like we are creating what we call the holographic mind projection. So imagine we are using that yellow triangle that I was just talking about, for example, this, or the blue triangle in the geochrome, so number 3. So this is a triangle to protect the environment, to make it more shiny, more energetic, and more immune to any external influences. It activates the intellect, intuition, and clarity. So, once you read this, you connect with the energy of this symbol. And so you are activating a blue triangle for this house, and you know what it means. So, you're using your mind and your heart to emit, to really connect with this healing frequency, while you're verbalizing the command for the tool. So the words again help to put the intention and the strength of this tool out. So, it will come to you very easily. I'm just explaining because I think for people who are new to this, they don't really know how to do this. So we're not just using our minds and reading what's written. We are really putting emotion and intention, because, the emotion is the prayer, what you're feeling is the prayer, like Greg Braden normally says. So it's more important what you're feeling and your healing intention, becoming this pure channel for healing. So really sending these vibrations into this house, or any situation that you're healing. It's much more important that it comes from your heart and your healing intention. Okay. So we keep selecting the tools and activating them. And as I told you initially, each session is unique. So it's like a cocktail of frequencies that we are selecting and building. So it's like you're building a specific vibrational remedy with all these different frequencies inside that is used for that house on that day. Okay. So each session is unique. So even the different symbols and colors and different tools that we select, they always tell us a story. So, for instance, if this blue triangle means that maybe this house is permeable to external influences. So this is activating to protect it, to activate intuition and the clarity of people who live in that house, and that helps them to also be more aware of what's going on in their environment. So just to give you this example, so each symbol, each tool will tell you a story. So be open to the feelings and intuitions that come during the sessions. So the tools, what you're feeling during the activation, all of this will tell you what's going on in that house, and also with the people who live there or who work there. And this will also help you to give extra feedback to your client once you finish the session. So you can write it down, or you can just take a mental note of what you're feeling, what's coming up during the session. Maybe something is relevant, or if you have a lot of Archangel Michael swords, maybe, or the geobiology ritual, it means there was like some negativity, some dense energies there affecting the house, or even the type of dragon essences that get activated. They'll always tell you what they mean. So all of this gives you extra information. So that's why I think quantum psionics is so amazing, is that it really tells you the story behind each situation every time. So I've done hundreds of sessions to people in houses. So it's interesting how every session is like a new story. Right, so finally we select the triskel, so this symbol that you see on the screen. So the triskel is a very ancient symbol coming from the Celts in Northern Europe especially. So it means birth, death, and rebirth, or resurrection. It's a very powerful healing symbol. So on this board, it means divine delivery. It means that it's time to end the session. So after you've selected all the tools, when your pendulum selects this symbol, it's time to close the session. Then there is a final command on your manual. And it's like we're disconnecting from the house, from the situation, from those energies. and asking for everything to be, you know, be put back in divine order, and to you release it. You like you're giving it back to God and the universe. So after you've done this connection, you can check for final measurements. So anything that was relevant, imagine there was a lot of negativity, you can double check, see how much negativity is there, if there's still something there or not, or what is the current general frequency, emotional frequency, etc. So after you've done and activated all the tools and you've done your session, we always check for measurements, which are the relevant measurements. You don't have to go through the whole list again, but especially the main things that were a bit out of tune. So you check again. Normally they are okay. You know, normally we clear negativity with one session, but maybe more sessions are needed. So you can always ask on the clock, do I still need more sessions for this issue, for this house? And it says yes or no, and then you ask how many, 1, 2, 3, whatever. And then you can also ask in how many days should the next session be. Okay, so you give that feedback to your client, and then you can book a session, you know, the next session. So right, so as I was saying, that each session is unique. Okay, so we do this choice of healing frequencies not with our minds. It's not like we're not commanding the pendulum, as you know. So this is a very intuitive selection. So your pendulum is an extension of your higher self and your divine I am presence. So the pendulum is telling you which tools are being selected. It's not something that you do yourself. It's very interesting. So you never know which tools are going to be selected, okay? So there is not a logical sequence. We don't know how many. They're not predetermined. So just take the time that we need, you know. It can be 5, it can be 10 or more. You never know how many. But then once you start doing it, it can be, you know, it can be quite rather quick to do it. So, you know, the activations, so the proper healing session can take from 10-15 minutes up to an hour. It really depends on what's being worked on. And especially if you have the geobiology ritual, so the geobiology tool, that takes quite a long time because you're clearing the house from top to bottom with the help of different devas, with different consciousness. It's a very complex ritual, but it's very effective. It's really incredible how it clears all types of negativity in the house. So I think it's good fun to do, but it takes a while. So it's like 5 or 6 pages that we need to read. Okay, so let's look at the different tools. Okay. So let's start with the solar disc. So the solar disc is it's here on the top. It's this lovely symbol here. So it represents the divine virtues, the divine rays, the emanations of the universe. And it connects us with the creator of all universes. You may call it God. So this symbol will connect us to these higher planes of consciousness, to ascended beings, to our spiritual guides and mentors who are at the service of Earth and other, you know. So it's a very spiritual energy that comes through. So when you select this tool, we always take the pendulum to the clock because we need to check which ray number are we activating. So, you know, once you imagine your pendulum selects this tool, then you always come down and ask which ray do I need. So it's telling me, okay, it's the 5th, number 5. So you know it's the 5th ray. So on your manual you have all the different rays and the activation commands or mantras for the rays. So we always come to the solar disc to activate all the rays, because this is where we connect to the spiritual plane. So we always spin our pendulum with intention. So it's the 5th green ray. So I say, I am activate the 5th green ray of divine healing for this space. And then you read the whole command. I am, decreeing, commanding, ordering, activate precipitation of the virtues of the 5th ray, green flame of divine healing. Activate frequencies of truth, science, concentration, the divine all-seeing eye, divine justice, abundance, consecration, dedication, divine prosperity. And then you can always add pulsing, pulsing, pulsing to all the commands. So it means that you're sending out the energy 3 times. Okay, so it's the power of 3. So, you know, we always have these annexes, these attachments with all the commands. So don't worry, you don't have to learn this by heart. You will eventually, if you say them many times. Right, so, you know, you just select the rays and you always, it's just the one ray normally that we select one by one. So every time your pendulum goes to that direction of the solar disk, you ask which ray and you activate it. But during the session, different rays can be activated. So now it was the 5th ray, then if it comes up again, it could be the first blue ray or it can be one of the other rays. So, you know, you keep just, sometimes the frequencies, the tools get repeated, but they are different or they are used in a different moment of the session. Okay. So the rituals. So the rituals means that this spiral. So again, going back to the 5-pointed star, you have a spiral here. So if your pendulum selects that symbol, it means that we'll be looking at the different prayers. So I've selected a few prayers in English for my English students. So prayers to bless the home and the family, a decree or affirmation, protection of the home and family coming from Archangel Michael. And there is a Celtic house blessing, another house blessing, and a traditional Irish house blessing. So there are a few prayers. You can always add more. They have numbers. So if you select this tool, you come to the clock and you ask which number, okay? So it will say, okay, it's number 3. So I know it's the protection of the home and family. So I go to my board and I ask which portal, and it's telling me the 3 portals simultaneously. So I will say out loud this prayer. You can say the whole prayer out loud, and then you let the pendulum stop. Okay? If you have other prayers, even from different countries or other traditions, you can always add them here. Or for example, if you would like to add a ritual for cleansing, for example, like smudging or using your drum, people have different rituals they like to use, or using sea salt or something like that. You can always add them as numbers, and then you know that you will need to do that ritual. It doesn't have to be in that moment, but you can always do that, or you can ask the owner, the house owner, to do it later. Okay, so it could be rituals or it could be prayers. So rituals in the sense of some physical action that we use for cleansing, especially, or for blessing the house. Then the next symbol, it's called the organizer. It's the same as the code 21 on the blue board. It's this symbol here. So this is a very great symbol, and I love this energy. So it acts as a scanner or a reset button, and it clears and reorganizes any energy entanglement, so any knots, any difficult energies that may be in the house. It's like you're activating the antivirus, the organizer, the restart button in your computer. So it can come up many times during a session. It's like you're, you know, once you've inserted certain frequencies, you use the code 21 or organizer to reset, to restart the program, okay? So you're clearing all entanglements, all energies that are no longer needed, so you can go to the next level. You know, it's like when you are on your computer, you are removing old programs, and then you need to restart the computer, or once you insert new programs, you need to restart new software, for example. So it's the same principle, okay? So it's like you are also scanning the house, restarting, and it also reveals which parts of the space may need to be treated, okay? So it can act in different ways. So it's called code 21 because, according to Reggio Prado, the creator of these boards, it's like opening 21 portals simultaneously, like a giant mechanism. And it scans, locates, and reorganizes all the energy entanglements. And there is the activation command. So I am activate code 21, clearing, organizing, and finding anything that needs to be worked on in all octaves that are allowed. So octaves in the sense of different levels of reality that we may access. Okay. The next symbol is called the chromatic matrix. So chromatic comes from color. So we are using like all the spectrum, all the colors of the rainbow, like an SOS remedy, okay? So the chromatic matrix sends a soothing balm in all colors, in all chromatic frequencies, in several octaves of scale to all the energetic fields of a space. Okay, there's like a giant rainbow, and its function is to soothe, to reshape, to restructure, and to soften, you know, the house. So we use all the octaves. So it means that we're going through all the spectrum, even the one that we don't see. So this means that the house needs to be recalibrated, like an SOS remedy for the aura. We are using that for the house. So there is a question here. Just a moment. So there is a question here from Madhu. She's asking, do we speak the rituals out loud fully? I mean, normally we say the prayers out loud. You read them. The rituals, you don't need actual words. You know, if you need to do smudging or if you need to do drumming or something, you know, you don't need to say any words. You just do it. So the ritual symbol and details are missing. They are? Okay, I will check that. Okay, so they are not missing, they're there. It's just that we have I've sent you the attachment, the prayers. If you don't have them, I can resend them. Maybe there was some lapse there, but normally we don't need to activate. We don't say, I am activate the prayer, so and so. You just read the prayer, okay? But I will check if you, I think I've sent you all the attachments, but just in case, I will double check at the end of this lesson. So again, going back to the colors. So this is like sending color healing in full spectrum, okay? All the colors at once. It's like you are soothing the energetic matrix of the house, okay? And it's a very powerful. I love using colors. Then the next symbol is the crystals. So there is a list of crystals. So in this case, we don't use a list of the specific crystals. We use crystals by colors. You can always add another list with all the crystals. So this is one of those cases where you could, you know, underneath the symbol, you know, there could be, you know, list number 1, which is the one that I've provided, you know, where you have the different colors of crystals that you can use. So you have black crystals, red crystals, orange, yellow, green, pink and green, blue, violet, and white crystals. Okay, so we use the crystals by color, but you can always add a number 2. So list number 2 could be a list of crystals that you may use specifically. So this is an example where you could add something else. So we normally, again, if we select the crystals, then we come to the midpoint here. We said which portals shall I activate it on, and it's saying, you know, all the portals. So after I've checked which one, you select, you know, for example, crystals. Just a moment. So, you know, the color could be orange. So, you know, the orange crystals, and you can activate them. I am activate the frequency of the orange crystals for stimulating creativity and spontaneity, to allow ourselves to be different, manifesting our talents and providing warmth. It has a detoxifying effect, unclogging energies and bringing optimism and joy, you know, pulsing, pulsing, pulsing. So you will imagine this color with your mind and your heart, this orange color. This, if you work with crystals, you can even visualize specific orange crystals, for example. So always use your imagination, you know, any visual images that may help you during the activation, which makes it more powerful. So color cleansing. So color cleansing, in this case, we use, again, flower remedies, but these flower remedies were created specifically for space clearing or cleansing. It's called the Ayuroca system. It comes from Brazil. It was created by a lady called Vania Gravina, and she created this combination of flowers and crystals of the same color frequency. So again, it's like a color code. So it's in the manual, and we have the different colors of the so it's like we are combining the frequencies of flowers with the frequencies of crystals, and it's very lovely energy. I will show you. This is how she has created the different flower remedies for clearing environments. So we have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, white, golden, and the 7 colors. So combined. So we can ask which one do we need. So let's say it's the 7 colors. Okay. So you know the 7 colors is for heavy clearing. Okay. So we can always say, I am activate the flower remedy for the 7 colors cleansing, for deep cleansing, using all the essences, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, and white. Pulsing, pulsing, pulsing. You can say. Okay, just to give you this example. So they call them etheric detergents. So it's like powerful cleansing agents. So we can use the color tab, or you can use the number to be activated, and then you check which one it is on your list, and then you activate it. Okay. So this area of Brazil is very beautiful. It's got a lot of very like dense rainforest. My sister used to live there for a while. She went to live in Brazil, and it's very beautiful, very strong energies there, very pure energies from Mother Earth, from nature. So these flower remedies are lovely to use. And again, underneath this symbol of the flower remedies, so underneath this symbol here, we can add other flower remedy systems if you like. If you know any other flower remedy systems that you can use for houses, or you can add anything that you feel it's relevant. Okay. Right, so the next symbol that we have here is called the geochrome, Reiki with geochrome, or geochromotherapy. This is a vibrational tool that uses, again, 14 codes, combining geometric shapes, colors, and light. This was created by a lady in Spain. So it's a list with all the different properties of each symbol. So, you know, we have the yellow triangle, the turquoise triangle, the blue triangle, green triangle, etc., etc. So you have this list with the 24, it's not 14, it's 24 geometric archetypes. And then we combine this, let me just change it. It was 14, I don't know why it says 14. And we just say the activation commands after we've selected which one. So like I said last time, so if it could be the blue triangle, I am activate the frequency of the blue triangle for such and such purpose. So they're very powerful, beautiful colors. I know they even use them for, not just for houses, of course, they use them for healing people and animals. So they put these shapes on these light reflectors, like they put these shapes with the light underneath, and they are like pulsing this energy of this color and geometric shape. And it's very interesting. It's, again, the power of color and shape combined. So the next tool is called the balance of the elements. So it's this symbol here with these 4 triangles. So this is coming from, you know, the ancient alchemy studies, that there are 4 elements of nature, 4 archetypal forces existing in the universe that also need to be balanced and harmonized in any space or house. So, you know, maybe there is some element that is unbalanced, or several. So earth, water, air, and fire. Okay, so we use the 4 elements. We don't use the 5th element here, the ether. But if you feel, you know, intuitively that you need to harmonize ether, you can always include it here. So the activation mantra or command would be, I am activate the balance of the elements, earth, water, air, and fire. Pulsing, pulsing, pulsing. And you can always visualize these elements with your mind to make it more potent. Then finally we have Archangel Michael. So this is always a very interesting tool to use. So Archangel Michael sword. So in this case, we are combining you know, these 2 swords. So as you know, in the blue board, we have these swords are separate. So we have one facing up and the other facing down. But in this green board, we are using them in a combined way. So it's activating the element of spiritual defense and protection for this house or space, okay? So maybe there is some negativity there. So we are cutting negativity in the various spheres, and we are also reversing the negative into positive. So this means we are calling upon the egregore, the spiritual group of Archangel Michael and all the angels, the guides, etc., for spiritual defense and protection. We say cut, break, burn, detach. So you're like cutting all negativity, all links, all cords, everything that is negative. We break is like you're breaking a dish, a porcelain dish. So no harm can be done again to these people or house. You burn it in the sacred fire. So you give it to the violet flame, the golden flame, and then you detach. It's like you're detaching the house and the people from those energies, all that is not divine in this space. Then we activate the guardians, shamans, and mentors to remove all entities and obsessors, clearing to zero with forgiveness and repairing in the galaxy. So, for some of you who are familiar with these tools, it's like we are combining the two activation commands from the two swords into one for the house, but you can always add the prayer, or you can always add anything else you think is relevant for this moment, okay? And do it with a lot of intention. I always like to have an image of Archangel Michael with me when I'm working, and it's a very beautiful energy to use, and it's very effective. I think these boards are so incredible when you're clearing negativity, and they're very effective too. Okay, so talking about negativity, included in your attachments in the documents, there is what we call geobiology ritual. Again, it's like a prayer, something that you read. Why is it called geobiology, right? So, many of you are familiar with this word. Geobiology is the knowledge, the study of the influence of the earth on living beings. So geo is earth and bio is living being, so life. So in the past, this was known as geomancy, the knowledge of reading the earth and all the subtle energies in the earth. So this is a global vision that studies this interaction between people, human beings and their environment. So nowadays it's called a science, so it's geobiology, and it's analyzing the house, the property's health, and how the vibrational energy is interfering with any living organisms, including people, animals, plants, etc. So they use this geobiology to reorganize and create healthy spaces. And it's also known as the medicine of the habitat of the house. Okay, so what is this ritual? It's got a few pages, and then you can read it just to get the feeling of what you're doing. So when your pendulum selects this symbol, this house, it means that you are going to be reading this very powerful prayer ritual, visualizing it, and you are creating a powerful Buddhic column. So you're like creating this powerful vortex that will clear all negativity, all entities, all memories, all negative energies that may be in that space with the help of angels and devic forces. And it's really powerful, and it's really worth doing it. For trained geobiologists, if you are a trained geobiologist and you select this symbol, it may indicate the need to do a specific reading of the telluric energies or any other specific work that you may be familiar with. But for the purpose of our course, if you select this symbol, then you should read those pages with intentions, like a prayer, visualization, a method to clear all negative energies with the help of angels, of golden energies, of symbols. It's very, very powerful. Okay, so if you are used to working with crystals, and if you like crystals, we can always use the green crystal, or you can have a clear quartz crystal or any other smaller crystal, and you can program, if you know how to program crystals, you can program this geobiology visualization ritual onto crystal to help you speed up the process. Okay, but to be honest, I think it's very useful to read that visualization, that process every time, because it really helps to detect and clear in all different areas whatever is wrong with the house and the space you're working on. Okay, So yes, it sometimes comes up and it's a bit long, but it's worth it. Okay, it's worth the effort. So I need to have a little break now. I will interrupt and I will come back for the next part of our lesson. Okay, I will see you in 5 minutes. Okay, I'm going to interrupt and pause the recording so we can also have 2 videos rather than 1. Okay, see you in a moment. Madhu, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay.